Good morning. It's another wet day today, but that doesn't really matter. I had something different planned for today. Today we're gonna make a picture. An acrylic flow paint picture. So I'll be setting up, and of course it's still early, so after I had a coffee, we go get started on that. See you later.
So today we're gonna do a painting with acrylic paint, and we're gonna make it a really thin acrylic paint so it flows, and through that we can make a painting in an easy way. But the difficult thing about it is you never know how it turns out, but on the other hand, that's part of the fun of it. So the first thing we need to do is we have a canvas here, and the first thing we need to do is to paint it black. And for that we take some black paint, and we really need to thin it out just with water, and take a stick, mix it, and just keep doing that till it's done, till it's nice and liquid. And then with a brush we have a first painting of the background, and that will be the backdrop of the thing we're gonna make. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, that's done, and now the one thing left to do is just take a foam brush, and we're gonna paint the canvas black. So that is what we can work with later on. And this is just so that through the design we'll have no white showing through. So I'll be doing that for a little while, and I'll be back again. So now the canvas is black. The only thing I forgot to mention when we started, like I said, I'm new at all this, put some pins in the frame so it's not sitting on the table or whatever your working surface is, but make sure it's a little raised up, and that makes it a lot easier to work with the canvas. So the next thing we need to do, besides, you can just continue working, you don't need to let the background dry. If it's wet, facilitate the flow of the paint over the canvas. So you can just keep on going. The next thing we need to do is to prepare the paint for the actual work. And the way we do that is, I've already done it with the black, but you dilute the paint with some water, and you will add something that is called Floetrol, which makes the paint more liquid without it becoming watery. And that you do with all your paints. And then when you've done that, you stir everything up, you make it a consistent mass. Then you use a little bit of silicone, you spray it in there, mix it up really good again, and that will facilitate something that is called cell formation, and that will make the different paints, the different colors, break through each other. And that gives a really interesting picture. So that is what I'm gonna do now. Today I'm using black, I'm using blue, I'm using kind of pinkish red, and some fluorescent green. So what I'm gonna do now is prepare all this, and then I'll be back, and then we start the actual painting. Be back in a jiffy. So I've stirred up all the colors, I added Floetrol, I added some water to make it into a consistency where if you take the steering stick out, if it almost makes a continuous drip from the stick, then you have the right consistency. But it's always good to do some experimentation and see for yourself what works best for you. So now the only thing left is some silicone in there, which is here. Give it one more stir and then add all the paint into one cup. With this kind of painting there are different techniques, and I'm using one which is the easiest to start out with. Like I said, you just mix up your colors, then you move everything into one cup by alternating the colors, and always remember the one you put in first is the one that comes out last. And then you just put your canvas, you turn it over, you put it on top of the cup, and then you put the whole thing back and you lift the cup and the paint will flow and make its own design. And after that there's still a few things you can do with it. To change it, you tilt it a little bit and you make it go where you want it to go. And then later on you use the torch, which will facilitate cell production for one, and secondly, if you have bubbles in your painting and you go over it with some heat, it will pop the bubbles. So you will end up with a canvas that is smooth, and that is what you want. So that's what I'm going to do now. That's all the silicone you need. Now give it a stir and then move it into a cup. I'll be doing that in a second. So now it's time to move everything into a bigger cup, or at least move everything into one cup. So just take some and start moving it into one cup. And then take the next color and the next color, and you just keep doing this till all the other cups are empty. And of course you can change the sequence up. There's only, forgot to move my hands into the picture, but you just keep on doing this, and there is no way you can do this wrong. Nobody can control the end result. It always turns out the way it turns out, and that's absolutely not in your control. So the only thing you can do about all this is just enjoy the process, and sometimes you end up with nothing. Then there's a really easy solution for that. Swipe all the paint off before it's dry and reuse the canvas. I think I really cut this very fine with the size of the cup and the amount of paint. But if it goes, it goes. That's about all. So you put all this to the side. And that is why you have it on little pins, so you can easily pick it up. You put the canvas on the cup and you turn it around, and then you lift. and it will become what it will become. You just need to help it a little bit to flow sometimes, and you can make it go where you want it. And it will flow over the sides, so always wear gloves when you do this, because it does tend to get a little messy sometimes, but I should have made it a little more fluid. It's not quite there, so that's why it's flowing so slowly. But once you started doing this, there's no way back, so whatever comes out is what you end up with. So it's just like real life. Sometimes you start things that you did the right thing, but with this there's a real easy solution. If you don't like it, like I said, scrape it off, start again. There's no way of doing this incorrectly. And the one thing you really shouldn't do is scratch your nose when you're doing this, because you will end up with a really funny looking face. Sometimes, like now, like I said, it's a little too thick, and sometimes you have to help it a little, especially on the corners. And you can just use a little extra paint there. And again, sometimes it works out fine, sometimes it works out not so good. But as you see, I've put some paint in the corner here, because it didn't want to cover the corner, so now there's sufficient paint, and we just make it run. And we make it run the other way a little bit. Is this any good? I don't know, but let's keep it this way for now. Now I need to clean my gloves so I can pick up other things without utterly destroying everything. So, and now it's time for the torch. See, just a small torch, just move it over the paint, and it will facilitate the cells. And over time, when it's drying, it will also change a bit. So I think this is quite nice. It's something I haven't done for quite a long time, so I'm absolutely not disappointed with this result. So, now there's always one thing you need to do, and that is make sure that all the paint that's run off actually does cover the sides. Because if there is a part that is not covered, it really looks ugly. And I think we got everything. So the one thing left now is just to leave it, put it in a place, put it in a level place, otherwise the paint will start running off, you will end up with nothing. Just leave it as it is, let it dry for 2-3 days, and then put some varnish over it, and you have a painting without being a painter. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like, give me a subscription. It's a stimulus to be doing this, and I'll see you next time. Bye!